Hello and welcome to Central Georgia Focus, the Ask Mayor Miller edition. I'm your host, Liz Fabian from the Murphy Center for Collaborative Journalism. Each month, we sit down with Macon-Bibb County Mayor Lester Miller and ask your questions and those from the journalists at the CCJ. Thanks again for joining us, Mr. Mayor.
You're welcome.
You know, we're sitting down just days after the second assassination attempt on former President Donald Trump. Our Macon-Bibb County government is nonpartisan, but what do you think about the current political climate?
Very toxic. I think one of the things we try to do here in Macon-Bibb County is concentrate on our own local government, not get involved too much in national politics. But anytime you got an assassination attempt of any kind of elected official, it's a very serious nature, and I think sometimes you're going to have to start watching the words that we say to incite people. That's certainly a concern of mine as well as others, but especially someone who's vocal in the community. I think sometimes people are there waiting for a moment and you can trigger them, and I think we have to be very careful of the words that we use from this point on.
Because you've even seen it in your own races where the rhetoric gets a little bit heated or people get out on social media and make claims. So do you think we could ever get back to civilized politics?
Unfortunately, with AI and the new technology that we have, I think it's only going to get worse. You know, when you can basically make your opponent say anything you want them to say, even though it's not them saying. You can put memes out there on social media, or you can make, all kind of videos that are simply not true. People have a hard time basically separating the facts from what's fake and what's not fake. And I think that's going to be something that we're going to have to consider over the next several years, especially when it comes to ethics and that type of marketing.
Do you think all local politics should be nonpartisan, like, for example, the sheriff's race?
Personally, I do. I know people, are for or against it. Generally, people who are in control, they want it to be partisan if they're in control, and when they lose that control, they want to be nonpartisan. So, I think it's all local politics should be nonpartisan. I think it's, I don't care if the sheriff's a Republican or Democrat if he's going to fight crime and do the things, and I don't care if like the judges. I don't care if she's a Republican or Democrat judge, as long as they can be fair and impartial.
We're almost at Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday. How do you think that he has been able to transcend the party divisions of late and be celebrated by people of all political parties?
Exactly. I'll be traveling to Atlanta tonight for Jimmy Carter's 100th birthday celebration there at the Fox with my wife, and I think a lot of us didn't think Jimmy would be here after the news came out a couple of years ago, but I do think that he's been a good president, post-president, bringing people together and something that everybody can rally around. Both my Republican and Democrat friends maybe not necessarily appreciate the policies that he's had all along, but him as a person and a human being says a lot for him and his family.
Well, the Macon-Bibb County Commission is about to change. Already, Commissioner Elaine Lucas has effectively resigned when she qualified for the Macon Water Authority post. And some of those coming on the board did not have your endorsement in the election. So how do you plan to move forward with these new faces and personalities?
Just like we always do. It's just you have to separate politics from reality sometimes. And I think, as you can remember, 3 or 4 of the commissioners did not support Lester Miller for mayor. And we've been doing just fine the last 4 years, in my opinion. So certainly people are going to have their own opinions during an election campaign. There's only one person on this commission that got elected that I did not openly endorse, and that was Mr. Stewart. But certainly I'm going to work with all of our commissioners like we always do. And I think that in the end, Macon-Bibb County is going to be better because of it, because we're going to work together as a team. And I don't expect any issues whatsoever, and I don't think we're going to miss a beat.
Commissioner-elect Stewart is in District 3 that Commissioner Lucas just vacated. So what's going to happen to that seat until the inauguration?
That's a good question. I think when the effective date of her resignation was when she qualified for the Macon Water Authority, the mayor and commission has 20 days to replace someone or call for a special election. So I suspect probably on October 1st we'll have something on our agenda to take care of that. We'll see where it takes us at that point.
All right. Well, speaking of agendas and the commission, when you became mayor, you and the Committee on Committees did away with the subcommittees that used to be in place, like public safety and facilities management and appropriations and stuff. And you operate with the board meeting twice a month and either a pre-commission meeting or a Committee on Committees, the alternating second Tuesday of the month. And a couple of the commissioners, I think Commissioner Lucas and Commissioner Watkins, had expressed kind of criticism of that approach. So what do you think it brings to the table? Why do you favor that approach other than the subcommittees?
Well, I think it's a more open and transparent government. I think we get things done a lot more than what we used to. As you recall, when you had those committees, Not everybody was at the table. Nobody was back there finding the information out. So what happened is some commissioners would know some of the information and the other commissioners wouldn't know any information. And you would sit there at a commission meeting just hours after hours, basically not getting anything done. At the same time, it was done in a back room with nobody there. Public wasn't back there for these committee meetings they held. It wasn't on Facebook Live like we do it today. So all of our commission meetings are broadcast live on social media. Of course, the media is always welcome to be there. So Commissioner Watkins is really the only person, and that's because he was a chairman of one of those, committees itself, and sometimes they like to, have some FaceTime out front. But bottom line is it's been working a lot better, a lot more efficient. We're going to continue to do it for at least another 4 years, I can promise you that.
And you recently hosted the Muskogee Creek Nation at City Hall, unveiling new street signs for downtown that have the native language on them as well. So why do you think it's important to have this relationship with the nation, and what does it mean to you both personally and as the mayor?
Well, I think it's a reconciliation. We've been talking about it. It's one thing just to say it and raise a flag, but I think our actions over the last couple of years have shown that we truly want to have a reconciliation, go back to the time that we, a lot of us, none of us was here at the time, this horrible things happened, and now to kind of recognize it and take baby steps, bring them in back to their homelands. They're going to contribute a lot, both culturally and financially to our community. The signs are just a small token. Basically, you're still going to have Plum Street there, but you'll have the equivalent Muskogee Creek Nation language underneath that. I just think it's another step in the right direction, and certainly I think the eyes are upon us, right? I think everybody in the United States are watching us. Congress is certainly watching the actions of Macon-Bibb County, and we hopefully expect in the very near future to be named a national park, and I think this is, one of those things that we can kind of rely on as well.
And the Bicentennial Committee is part of that year-long celebration. There's also been the unveiling of the African American history markers that call attention to places where slaves were sold in our downtown and such. Why is it important also to commemorate those darker portions of our history?
Well, because I think you have to tell the whole story. Not just the good parts. You got to also talk about the parts that are not so good, and how far we come, and how far we still have to go. So I think making sure we're a very inclusive community. One of our bicentennial initiatives was to make sure that we had everybody there, everybody from every walk of life there. We want to make sure we told the entire story. Back 100 years ago when you had the first celebration, I don't think you really got the whole story. And I think we've made a conscious effort to be intentional about this, to make sure that we're a melting pot community. We want to make sure that everybody is represented here, and that's just another way to let people know that this is what we're going to do, and this is who we are.
And the long-awaited renovation of Rosa Parks Square is kicking off with this week's groundbreaking. Why do you think it took so long for that project to get traction?
Well, in my honest opinion, is you didn't have a administration in place that had the backbone to get it done. You have people that were kind of teetering both sides of politics and saying, do we really want this? We set this up, we didn't provide no funding, they're not doing fundraising. And finally we said, look, this is something our community wants and we can afford to do it. We just need to put our money where our mouth is, and we did that, as long as, well, several other things. And I think it's going to be a kickoff this week. I'm excited about the groundbreaking, and I'll be very excited about the finished project when it's completed.
And speaking about things taking a long time, RCCJ Director Debbie Blankenship wants to know, was the SeeClick Fix platform affected in any way by the cyber breach in the spring? Because she says usually when she puts something on there, it's seen about in a relatively short manner, but she's had a couple of things on there that have been there almost about 2 months, about a right-of-way issue, and then another with a traffic signal issue that's been on there longer than that. So do you know, is there any kind of change going on with SeeClick Fix?
I don't think any technical difficulties because of that. I do think that the more we have people getting involved in it, and sometimes people do 20 or 30 SeeClick Fix in one day, and it may be the same ones that someone did 2 or 3 days ago. So it takes a lot of manpower to get through those things and to make sure we go through there. And a lot of times it's not the department, Macon-Bibb County's responsibility. So sometimes those tickets get closed and people think they're completed when really they're just sent on maybe to Macon Water Authority or GDOT. So I think, just bear with us, make sure you do that, follow up on it. Feel free to send an email if SeeClick Fix ticket doesn't get fixed correctly. We'll try to figure out why it is and get better the next time.
Mr. Mayor, last week you hosted your colleagues from the Middle Georgia Regional Commission at the new community center in Macon Mall. As Alex Morrison responded to that as being and the soft side of Sears, I think. But I heard a lot of praise from your colleagues about those revitalization efforts. So what did you hear from leaders across the region?
A lot of excitement. Usually we think that we're just so overly competitive with our neighbors. We have to have 11 cities, counties represented there. But they were very complimentary. They appreciated coming to the mall. They thought the facility itself was fabulous. they also had many questions about how do you actually revitalize this area. How did you do it? How did you make the finances work? How did you get the community to support it? And how did you get your commissioners on board? So they think we're having a love fest here in Macon-Bibb County. I think we are as well. And they want to know what the magic is that we have going on there. And it's a wonderful project, and everybody was very complimentary.
Of course, they were doing the ribbon cutting as well for the Middle Georgia Regional Commission offices there. And I saw at least one of the local commissioners from another county taking a respite on one of the little benches, because it is a pretty long walk to get back there. But I understand that they are going to be using the courtrooms for voting this year. So do you know how things are shaping up for that, using that courtroom access?
Well, I think we've had several meetings ourselves to make sure all the technology is in place, make sure that we have appropriate signage that will be in and properly displayed. So I think it's just an ongoing effort. Last time we offered that as well. We didn't get taken up on it by the Board of Elections. But this time we're going to make sure that that's available, and we're going to make sure in the future that we schedule any proceedings there, any events that we have going on there, to make sure it's always available for early voting. But I think it's going to be something where you can drive up to the curb, be very close there for those that meet the requirement, they're either disabled or meet the age requirement. Everyone else still needs to walk down the mall and go into the state-of-the-art facility we have inside the mall. So I think it's going to be a win-win from everybody. I think we're going to see no issues at this election. I think it's going to be a great turnout, so we'll have a good test run this time.
And of course, the last splost, the courthouse renovation, was one of the big ticket items. But with these new courtrooms and the purchase of the building on Walnut Street, where are we with a courthouse renovation project?
We have the company now that we awarded the contract to do the renovations. We've been meeting with them. They've been meeting with all the judges, the sheriff's department, and everyone involved in the process with our facility. So they'll be putting together a plan, and we'll send out an RFP for pricing on that. So next year you'll see those renovations start and perhaps get finished in a very short period of time. So probably going to exhaust that, but you got to remember we have the Juvenile Justice Center. We bought the building behind there. We got courtrooms at the jail. Eventually we'll have a new facility somewhere. So I think that doing a brand new courthouse probably wasn't necessary. That's why the language said that we could rehab the one we have or make improvements to it, and we chose to do that route.
And of course, like you said, having those annexes at the mall kind of took some of the pressure off as far as, room and space. We have a question from Joe Finkelstein. He wants to know what your vision of the mall is a year from now. Do you see more retail, upgraded food court? Will Santa be there taking pictures with the kids coming up in a couple of months? And will there be new quality hotels and retail stores?
I think Joe must be looking at my notebook on my desk. So all of the above, Joe. I think it's no secret I've been talking to hotels on that site. It's no secret that we're going to have some housing in the area. We constantly are talking to people, food providers, and Hall's doing a job at managing the facilities. Right now, we just got to make sure that we bring good quality companies in there, not just to have any just type of retail there. We want something to be successful. So we wanted to build it first, put our offices in there to create foot traffic to stabilize everything, and now we start fielding calls for the kiosks and maybe a coffee shop and maybe some incubators there for restaurants so people can get their feet wet. Most of your big restaurants or food courts are not like the old, because they got to depend on the drive-through, right? So after COVID, everybody's thinking, I got to have a drive-through if I'm fast food, so I don't want to go into a mall. If COVID comes again, I don't have any business. So, but retail is certainly going to be a different type of retail, as we talk about all the time. So I think you're going to see some of all of the above, and maybe some more entertainment come to the mall as well.
And the UDA also has property across Eisenhower Parkway there, and there's plans in the works for some sort of development. Anything you can share?
I know that nothing I can really share, except it's going to be a bigger and brighter future across the mall. I think you're going to be very excited. People always talk about you're doing this in North Macon, you're doing this downtown, why can't you do it other places? Well, you're about to see that, and hopefully you'll support that. But I think you're going to see something really nice coming by the mall. There's also the rooms to go is going to be Planet Fitness right there. You've got something coming to the out parcel there at the mall. So you're starting seeing a few pieces of the puzzle, but don't think we're a completed project yet. So we're not, but it's still got much work to do.
And now most of the amphitheater season is under our belt, and it looks like it's crescendoing coming up with Jason Aldean, and I think you mentioned there's another big, almost sellout concert coming up. So what have you learned from this first season? I know we just had to cancel the Boy George Squeeze concert for, I guess, lack of ticket sales. So what have you learned?
First of all, we haven't canceled a single show this year. We don't cancel shows.
Okay.
We always have our facility ready, willing, and able for people to do. If the promoter feels like they haven't met all the quotas that they need to, they certainly can postpone the show to a later date or move it to another site. So we don't cancel shows.
So that's their decision.
That is their decision.
Okay.
We're going to finish very strong. We got Co Wetzel coming up this weekend. Most people may not know about him, but he is an up-and-coming star. We've already sold over 9,000 tickets, plus all the VIP and the loges we have. We're going to get a little taste of what this amphitheater was built about, this weekend. Of course, you've got Jason Aldean, which should be close to a sellout as well. Brantley Gilbert, the Black Crows, and we're going to finish really strong. We're going to have a gospel concert in November. I'm pretty confident of. And maybe one other show around November that people are working on behind the scenes. So we're going to finish really strong. We're going to already start building for next year. We've already been in discussions with artists for next year. So we ask people to still stay engaged, let us know what you want to see, and we'll do our best to try to get it here.
I noticed it looks like some of the landscaping, some of the large trees that were planted appear to maybe have not made it over a hot summer. So do you know, are there any plans to redo that landscaping when the weather turns cooler?
Certainly we have a contract on that, and it's one of those things where we have to make sure to see what works there, the proper landscaping. Right now we wanted to get open and make sure it looked good to start with, and now we got to look more for longevity and how we can maintain that landscaping.
Mr. Mayor, since the last time we sat down, we had a mass casualty shooting at Appalachia High School in Winder, Georgia. Why do you think this keeps happening in our country?
Well, it's tough to tell. As a matter of fact, the day the shooting happened, I was in Barrow County for a GMA conference with our association, ACCG and GMA together, and the news broke. So just about 7 miles from where I was at, it's a very somber moment. Someone had 2 boys that went through public school and been on the school board. It's one of those things that really hits close to home. And everybody likes to sit back and guess about what coulda, shoulda, would have happened if we had this law in place. Still, people are going to have to be held accountable. I think in the end, what you're going to see is probably some family domestic violence type issues, some mental instability, and some bad choices made by adults allowing their children to come and access with these firearms. So, that's something that we don't want to see in our community. We strive hard each and every day to make sure that all the resources are in place to prevent that. In the end, people are going to do what they're going to do sometimes, and we just have to take the precautions and try to educate them, give them the assistance they need so they don't make these bad decisions.
Are you confident that we are prepared to handle something like that if it happened here?
I think we have a good team in place here between the school system and local leaders. So that's the sheriff's department and everyone else involved in it to deal with any emergency should it exist. But I don't think you ever can be over prepared. So there's always something out there that could happen. As you look at, we talked about the shootings before. You got Secret Service everywhere, and the former president of the United States still gets a bullet to the ear. So people, strange things happen, and we just have to do our best to prepare and get ready for it, and hopefully we'll better survive it.
It's kind of reignited the conversation about resource officers being armed and maybe even certain teachers being armed. Do you think that's a safety measure, or is that more of a hazard?
I don't know. I talked to some teachers at the time when I was on the school board, and most of them don't want to carry. And I think you can get into a situation where perhaps the teacher may have some issues or trauma going on, or maybe somebody takes the weapon from them. I know there's all kind of precautions there. Hopefully it don't involve getting guns in the classrooms, even as a protection method, because things can happen. But we've got to do a better job of screening people coming in and out of there, and making sure that all the loose ends are tightened up, and make sure that if people have issues, I always say it's okay not to be okay. So when we see things, we gotta tell people things. Not being a snitch is doing what's right to protect everyone. So hopefully our students get that message, and I know our teachers get that message.
Well, school's been back in session for several weeks now, so you know what question's coming, do you?
I always have questions.
How about the speed traffic cameras in the school zones? Mike Newsom wants to know, why does the 25-mile-per-hour speed limit carry on beyond when the kids are already in school? Why are people getting tickets beyond that flashing light time in front of the schools?
I guess because people are breaking the law. I mean, you don't get permission to go more than 10 miles an hour over just because the school's not in session. No more than you do on the interstate when it's 75. You don't get to go 90 just because there's not a school zone there. You just got to follow the law. Now, the areas that he says 25 miles per hour, I assume that's probably the Appling area. That's the only speed limit we have that stays a constant 25. But it's easy. When the lights are on, you go to reduced speeds. When the lights are off, you get 10 miles an hour over that speed, and you go to regular speed limit. I don't know why it's so hard for people to do. I think they're just mad because they got caught. But it's just a little disturbing. I hope we get zero off of it. I really do. If we got nothing off these cameras, I'd be happy, because that means nobody is speeding. We have seen a change in behavior. I don't know if you know it, but I'll go on Saturday and people will be really slow through a school zone and they're not even on. Those cameras do not come on until someone goes 11 miles per hour over, so it's impossible to get a ticket if you're not speeding. So that's what I tell people, just be patient. If you want to drive around, that's fine. But until we get enough money, enough officers, 42 officers that we can just sit at school zone there, this is the only mechanism we have, and we're just following the law, right? This is all was set up by the state of Georgia. We're just following their law. If they change the law, we'll follow that law. We're in the business of making sure that we stay leaders in our community, and we follow the law, and we ask everybody else to do the same.
I did notice that the other day on Vineville, in front of Vineville Academy. All of a sudden, everybody was just like, I was like, what's going on? I was like, oh, school zone. People have a tendency to just kind of rip right through there, but we are getting revenue, hundreds of thousands of dollars, but isn't that revenue earmarked to other public safety measures?
Yes, it's for public safety measures. As a matter, I met with the school system recently, and we're going to agree to, out of some of that money, to do crossing guards for all the elementary schools in Macon. I think that's a fabulous use of those funds. We're buying cameras for the sheriff's department. We're able to pay some salaries for part-time officers for the sheriff's department. We're putting boots on the ground for the sheriff's department. We're funding these community Macon violence prevention organizations out of the public safety money. Everybody's getting the benefit of it, and the only people who are not getting the benefit of it are people who are speeding and have to pay that little money. But I think it's going to a good cause, and certainly we don't want people to speed, and the money has to be used for public safety.
Well, we're in the middle of Hispanic Heritage Month. We have Pride Week coming up and a big October in downtown with the Macon Beyond videos and all kinds of things going on with Visit Macon. Why is it important for the community to gather in celebration of other cultures?
I just think that we have to make sure that we treat our neighbors as we want them to treat us. It's like the golden rule. And I think that bringing people together does just that among any events. Listen, you don't have to agree with everything everybody does, but I think you have to appreciate and respect what their positions. I'm certainly excited about the Hispanic Festival. I'm going to be down there myself at Carolyn Creighton Park. We've outgrown the area right in front of the City Hall, which is a great thing. And we're really excited about going down there. Having all the vendors come there, showing their part of their heritage. They contribute to our community just like anybody else does. Their money spent just like anybody else does. They're in our schools. They're in our great positions that we have. So we have to appreciate that, learn more about them. The more we understand people, I think the better we are as a community, and I think it's just doing the right thing.
And of course, we're headed toward the end of the year, the big Sneaker Ball coming up again, the 3rd annual Sneaker Ball. What does that event mean to you?
It's another way to bring the community together. We use the money for scholarships too, so anytime we can give young people opportunities to go to college, that's always a great thing for them and their parents. So we hope to keep raising money, keep growing the Mayor Sneaker Ball. And
tickets on sale now.
They're on sale now.
All right. Well, this is your ticket to Ask Mayor Miller. Remember, send your questions for next month at mercerccj@gmail.com, and we'll get some answers out of the Mayor of Macon-Bibb County. Thanks for joining us.